Tonight on our news, the heavily criticized travel health visa program comes to an end. What you need to know before you travel. Embattled Long Island MP Adrian Gibson says he will not resign as speculation brews over a possible by-election. Plus, meet the teacher who's spreading love in the classroom. Welcome to our news and thanks for joining us. I'm Christina Dragovich. The Bahamas Travel Health Visa program is being canceled. The news coming in today's parliamentary session will tell you when that program will end in a moment. But first, embattled Long Island Member of Parliament Adrian Gibson says he will not resign following his arraignment on Monday. The F&M MP and 6 others were charged with 101 criminal charges related to awarding contracts at the Water and Sewage Corporation while he served as executive chairman under the Minnis administration. Gibson was released on $150,000 bail with 2 sureties on Tuesday after he spent the night on remand at the Bahamas Department of Corrections. And after months of speculation, that MP was charged on 56 corruption-related charges. Now that Gibson is out on bail, the question some are asking is whether he should or has to resign. Jared Higgs tells us legally he isn't obligated to resign.
A good place to start is Article 48, 1F of the Constitution, which states, in part, that no person shall be qualified to be elected as a member of the House of Assembly who is under sentence of death imposed on him by a court in the Bahamas, or is serving a sentence of imprisonment exceeding 12 months imposed on him by such a court. Constitutionally, there is nothing disqualifying Gibson from being a member of Parliament. In any event, there are whispers of a potential by-election. Gibson's arraignment is no doubt a noteworthy moment in Bahamian political life. The Nassau Guardian's executive editor, Candia Dames, points out in her weekly editorial National Review that this is the first time that a sitting member of Parliament has been charged in 33 years. The last one was former Acklands and Crooked Island MP Wilbert Moss, who was charged and eventually convicted for trying to bribe a magistrate. Prior to that, in 1956, former Cat Island MP William Bill Cartwright pleaded guilty to 4 counts of stealing and false pretenses. He ended up resigning his seat. In Gibson's case, he and his 5 co-defendants weren't required to enter a plea to the charges as they will be tried in the Supreme Court. They are, of course, innocent until proven guilty. Gibson's arraignment came nearly 5 years after 3 former PLP parliamentarians were arraigned on corruption charges. Former Minister Shane Gibson was acquitted, as was former Senator Frank Smith. Former Minister Kenred Dorset had the charges against him dropped in March. Of course, none of those PLPs were sitting members when they were charged. Reporting for Our News, I'm Jared Higgs.
Thanks, Jared. Well, one day after the Labor and Immigration Minister criticized the former government for what he called lavish spending, former Foreign Affairs Minister Darren Henfield says authorities should look into the purchases, claiming he was not aware. Bethany McDermott reports.
Former Foreign Affairs Minister Darren Henfield calling for an investigation to be launched into claims that more than $500,000 of taxpayer funds was dished out to furnish an ambassador's residence in Europe. Our News understands the furniture was purchased for the embassy in Brussels, Belgium. Henfield shares the same sentiment.
There must be an investigation to determine where the systemic failures in the system so that we can prevent it from ever happening again in the future. Yeah, I mean, that's the choice for me because we've been established in the UK for years. We've been in Geneva for years, and we recently opened an embassy in Brussels.
While contributing to the 2022-2023 budget debate Tuesday evening, Labor and Immigration Minister Keith Bell blasted what he called wasteful spending by the Minnis administration.
I am submitting, Madam Speaker, given the contracts that I have in my possession, that in many respects, some of the deficit is attributed not to genuine cases relating to COVID or the hurricane, but mismanagement, abuse by the former administration.
Bell provided a breakdown which divulged $12,000 was spent on a bed, $19,000 on a rug, and $14,000 on a mirror. But that's not all. Bell said $14,300 was spent on a table, $9,000 on a dining room table, more than $20,000 on a dining table chair, $9,000 on a cocktail table, $14,500 on a sofa, and over $5,000 on 2 lamps.
This was done at a time when behemoths losing their jobs, had to pull their children out of university, lost their homes, had nothing to eat, was in the dark, no water, had to go to the pump, was arrested by the police while he was going to the pump, was convicted. Now we have to clean up all of the mess.
The Carmichael MP said the furniture was purchased under the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. While the renovations were being done, the ambassador stayed at a hotel for $20,000 per month. Reporting for Our News, I'm Berthany McDermott.
Meanwhile, former Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis is defending the purchases, calling Labour and Immigration Minister Keith Bell disingenuous. Dr. Minnis says there are protocols and policies that must be followed. He explains the $20,000 price tag to house the ambassador at a European hotel.
I see that they're raising hell about the $20,000 in a month. That's $600 per day. A hotel would have been utilized to accommodate the ambassador, while a resident was being sought looked for. That goes through a process, bidding, invoices, etc., and they must be approved at particular levels, and there are protocols and policies that must be followed. And those protocols and policies would have to be followed. That's why they're budgetary items. We can't go outside of that.
And Leader of the Opposition, Michael Pintard, calling out the governing Progressive Liberal Party in the House of Assembly this afternoon, charging the PLP has one set of rules for them and another for everyone else. Pintard cited 3 acts he claims the government is currently in breach of.
The same administration that continues to talk about the lack of transparency and accountability in the former administration, and to the extent that you do so, you have our support. We want every government, including ours, to be compliant. And when persons are in violation of the law, we support them as members of the family, but we are not going to support any wrongdoing. So we are also asking you to live up to that and stop breaking the law as it relates to the Procurement Act, the Fiscal Strategy Act, the Debt Management Act. All of these, this administration is in violation of.
Member of Parliament for St. Barnabas, Shannon Don Cartwright, spending the majority of his contribution to the 2022-23 budget debate, slamming the Davis administration's fiscal plans and criticizing government spending habits.
They said that they were ready on day one, but fresh out the gate, Madam Speaker, from Jump Street, as one of my boys would say, they have switched it up. Madam Speaker, as was said, they said they would spend no more than $2.6 billion in this budget, and that the deficit would not exceed $415 million. And just weeks later, Madam Speaker, they have already said, no, never mind what we said. No wonder Moody's is skeptical, because even the government doesn't trust its own numbers.
Well, it was another hot day across the country today. Meteorologist Greg Thompson has the latest conditions over in the Weather Center.
Hey, Christina, and welcome everybody for our first look at weather. Another hot and steamy day around the islands. Temperatures made it into the low 90s. We're settling into the mid 80s right now. Still warm out there. Few clouds, east winds at 9 miles per hour, and those feels like temperature. Very, very humid in 90 degrees on the outside. Satellite view, well, scorch record if you want to call it that. High pressure ridge remains in firm control of our weather. We still have some Saharan dust out there. Temperatures, as I mentioned, made it into the 90s, and those feels like temperature during the daytime hours made it into the triple digits. We will continue to see that weather pattern across us through tonight and into tomorrow as this high pressure ridge stays in charge. That's your first look at weather. Your extended forecast is still to come.
Still to come on our news, the travel health visa is canceled, but the testing requirement remains. 14 years overdue, the union representing bus drivers continues lobbying for a fair increase and later praise for students by their teacher. Find out the love in one classroom when our news returns.
Got size,
Bus drivers continue to lobby for an increase in fares, saying it's been 14 years overdue. Megan Shepard speaks with the head of the union representing drivers later in our newscast. Meanwhile, the travel health visa is set to be a thing of the past. Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Tourism Chester Cooper announcing in Parliament the travel visa will be eradicated on Sunday, but the COVID-19 testing requirement will remain in place. Jasmine Brown reports.
At 12:01 on the 19th of June, we're eliminating the travel health visa for all visitors coming to our country, just in time for Father's Day.
The decision to eliminate the travel health visa comes just over 6 months after the Davis administration eliminated the visa for Bahamians and residents. Cooper says with the summer travel just days away, now is the time to get rid of travel impediments and keep up with other destinations.
We are eliminating one of the pain points, one of the friction points from travel to our country to make it easier, less expensive, and more convenient.
On Tuesday, Cooper said Cabinet was set to consider the elimination of COVID-19 testing ahead of travel to the Bahamas. However, during his contribution to the 2022-2023 budget debate, the Deputy Prime Minister said the requirement remains in place, at least for now.
I announced the elimination of the travel health visa, not the elimination of testing. As the member would already be aware, Bahamians do not require a travel visa, but they're still asked at the counter, at the airline, to demonstrate that they are COVID negative. This is going to continue.
The DPM went on to insist the goal is to encourage more flights in key markets so that the Bahamas can get more visitors in country safely, quickly, and affordably, while also protecting public health. He says that's particularly important given the fact that visitor arrivals have increased by nearly 1,000%. During the first 4 months of the year, Cooper says visitor arrivals topped 1.9 million. Reporting for our news, I'm Jasmine Brown.
And if you've got travel plans to the United States this week and beyond, then you may also be happy to hear a mandatory pre-departure testing requirement has been discontinued. As of June 12th, the test is no longer required. However, travelers to the U.S. must continue to show proof of COVID-19 vaccination. When our news comes back from the break, the 14-year struggle of the bus drivers as the union continues calls for a fare increase.
Plus, coming up in sports for tonight, Little League Baseball, particularly Bahamas Nationals, makes their return. We'll give you details on that. We'll also tell you about our national team coaches for basketball. That's coming up in sports tonight.
All that and more straight ahead on our news.
Got size at 6'5". Hi, this is Shamir.
This is our news. Welcome back. Bus drivers responding tonight to the Transport Minister's contribution in Parliament, saying they simply want what is fair. Bus drivers tell our Megan Shepard they have not seen a fee increase in 14 years.
General Secretary of the Bahamas Unified Bus Drivers Union, Corvell Colbrook, says they are not pleased with Minister of Transport Jobeth Colby-Davis's assertion that increasing bus fares is not on the table.
There's no way that the minister or the present-day government expect transportation to continue going the way it is without something being done, especially with the high price of fuel and parts. Matter of fact, you can even now start labor towards it because, yes, we are hard-working men and a few ladies that are on the road. You can't expect us to keep going to the gas station and having to put 12 and 14 gallons at this price of fuel, anywhere from $80 to $100 being put in per day. This is per day.
Colby-Davis notes she will meet with the Ministry of Finance to design a temporary relief package. However, Colbrook says that is not enough.
We don't feel good at all about it because it doesn't sound right. You go into finance, and finance is going to tell you the same thing that's been telling the petroleum dealership, and it's been telling everybody else that they cannot do anything about it. So what are you going to do? You're going to cut VAT on fuel. Even if you cut VAT on fuel, fuel is over $6. All right, it's 10 cents per dollar. So you take 60 cents off of fuel, it's still over $6. This is summer. The price of diesel skyrockets in summer. We didn't see what is going on in America. Fuel in America is over $6. So that would means that fuel in the Bahamas is going to reach $10.
He notes not only is the cost of living skyrocketing, particularly gas, oil for their vehicles is also a major concern.
The price of oil, and we're talking about diesel oil that goes into the engines. As these buses runs on the road, if you start off a bus at 5 o'clock in the morning, you're not knocking off until 7, 8 o'clock. That diesel oil in that bus have to be replaced. So that means that 1 quarter oil is going to jump from $10 to $15. This is money coming out of their pockets or for the drivers or for the bus owner who has bills to pay, because a lot of these buses are underneath the banks.
So is the union prepared to take strike action?
The last interview I gave, I said that the minister is the only person that can answer that question. At this point in time, that question will have to be answered by the drivers, the franchise holders, and the operators.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Megan Shepard.
Well, the baseball national championships make their return in a big way. Meanwhile, the country names its coaching staff for basketball. Marcellus Hall has the latest.
All right, thanks, Christina. Welcome to Our Sports, everybody. I'm Marcellus Hall. Little League Baseball has been on a bit of a hiatus in terms of the Nationals for the last few years due to COVID-19. That ends this week as the Bahamas Baseball Association Nationals make their return over at the newly renovated Blue Hills playing field. We'll give you more details right now.
Well, baseball fans here in the Bahamas will have a lot to look forward to this weekend as the Andre Rogers National Baseball Championships make their return. They'll be at a new location previously held in Grand Bahama, now on a hiatus for the last few seasons due to COVID-19. The championships return at the newly refurbished Blue Hills Sporting Complex. This year, the championships will feature a number of different age groups, as always, including the 6 and unders, the coach pitch divisions, age 10 and under, the 12 and unders, 14 and unders, 16 unders, and 18 and unders, running through the 16th through the 19th, and of course featuring teams from the Junior Baseball League of Nassau, Freedom Farm Baseball League, Community Baseball League, Grand Bahama Baseball League, Abaco Youth Baseball League, North Abaco Baseball League, the Adam Brister Baseball League, and the Legacy Baseball League. All those kids will be in town over the next few days competing for the various championships in those age groups. Should be a really, really good time. Might want to check it out again over at the newly refurbished Blue Hills Sports Complex. Meanwhile, some news coming in from basketball. Bahamas Basketball Federation naming its coaching staffs for a number of its national teams heading out to compete this year. First of all, the Under-15 Men's Championship, which will take place in Garabo, Puerto Rico, June 18th through 22nd. That's going to be for the junior boys. Taking a look at that Under-15 coaching staff, it'll be coached by Coach Quentin Hall, assisted by Kevin Clark and Danico Bowles. Team manager will be Delva Francis. Team doctors George Burrows. And Director of Player Basketball Operations Latoya Silva, with the head of delegation being Stephen S. Brown. As far as the Under-15 Women's Championship team for the Central Basket, that's going to take place also in Garabo, Puerto Rico, June 26th through the 30th. Taking a look at that coaching staff, head coach Pharrell Davis, assisted by Anton Francis and Shakira Farrington. Team managers Taranya Wildgoose, with the athletic trainers being Sasha Johnson. Director of Basketball Operations and head of delegation will be Latoya Silva there. The first international game will be held in Garabo, Puerto Rico, June 18th through the 22nd with the Under-15 boys team.
And that is your look at sports here on this Hump Day Wednesday. I'm Marcellus Hall. Back to you, Christina.
Thanks, Marcellus. Still ahead, another look at weather around the country, and later, feel the love in one classroom as a teacher praises her students. Stay with us.
Got size at 6'5". Hi, this is Shamika.
Welcome back to our news. We made it to the midweek. Greg is back in the Weather Center with our extended forecast.
Thanks again, Christina. Welcome back, everybody, for our second look at weather. That ridge of high pressure remains in charge of our weather, but we'll look at the tropics first. The National Hurricane Center still watching an area of some further development as it continues to move towards the west and northwest. Most of the activity should be moving across Central America, should lose its punch, but once it moves back into the Gulf of Mexico, still giving it about a 30% chance for formation, but a high pressure ridge to the north of that will continue to steer that system towards the west. Shouldn't pose any problem for us here locally. As I mentioned, ridge of high pressure in charge. It's going to continue to stay with us for the remainder of the week. Some Saharan dust is still out there, but it's going to be filtering off over the next couple of days, but hot temperatures expected into the 90s. And your feels like temperature will be approaching the triple digits. Couple of tropical waves moving across the tropical belt. One coming off of Africa right now. Another one approaching the Leeward Islands, not showing any signs of development, and it will remain quiet across the tropics. Boating conditions for the northwest and central Bahamas tonight through tomorrow. Your winds will be out of the northeast to east at 10 to 15 knots. Seas running 2 to 4 feet over the ocean. Your high tide will be at 9:58 tonight. For the southeast Bahamas, easterly wind flow at 15 knots. They will be gusting at times. Seas running 3 to 5 feet over the ocean. Caution flag in place for you guys down there. Here's a look now at your national forecast. In your extended forecast over the next seven days, quiet up until Sunday. Front of boundary should approach us well to the north, but it will pool some moisture across us, so we could see a couple of isolated showers on the weekend and into early next week, and it should remain quiet for the balance of the forecast period. That's a look at our weather. Make it a safe night, everybody.
Thanks, Greg. Well, a sweet surprise for third grade students of Albury Sale Primary School as their teacher gave them some unexpected praise.
I told my students I put a picture of my favorite student in the box.
And they were all smiles when they looked inside.
It was a Miralol.
That teacher was Miss Sargent. She shared the video on her social media accounts, and so far it's been viewed nearly 50,000 times, spreading positivity and a boost of self-confidence before the long summer break. Well, that does it for us here at Our News Tonight. On behalf of the entire team, I'm Christina Dragovich. Have a beautiful evening, Bahamas.